The kitchen was silent, except for the faint dripping of a leaky tap. The walls were cracked, their paint peeling away like old wounds. The cabinets carried years of dirt, and the air smelled of dampness and hopelessness. On the cold floor sat Aisha, just 6 years old. Her knees were bruised from crawling on the rough surface, her tiny hands red from scrubbing. A large enamel basin stood in front of her, filled with murky water. Inside, she washed a torn piece of clothing with all the strength she had. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but she kept working. Childhood games, dolls, laughter, these were luxuries she had forgotten. Every stroke of her hand whispered the same message: this is my life now. 2 years ago, her mother had passed away after a long illness. Aisha was too small to fully understand death, but she understood one thing: her world had suddenly turned darker. Her father, Faraz, was a soldier. Brave, loyal, and always at the border. He wrote letters, sometimes sent money, but he couldn't be there to wipe her tears. The neighbors tried to help, but how long could they fill the void of a mother and father? So, Aisha learned to grow up faster than her age. At dawn, she fetched water. By noon, she washed dishes. By evening, she swept the floor, her tiny hands gripping a broom twice her size. At night, she often whispered into the silence, "Baba, please come home, I'm scared. I miss you." Aisha had vague memories of her father. She remembered how he once lifted her high in the air, how he kissed her forehead before leaving for duty, how his strong hands felt safe around her. But those memories faded with each lonely day. Sometimes she asked herself, did Baba forget me? At school, other children talked about their parents, mothers packing lunches, fathers picking them up. Aisha sat quietly, pretending to smile, but inside, her heart ached. Her only companion was an old broken doll. She whispered her secrets to it, dressed it in scraps of cloth, and told it bedtime stories when the nights felt too long. One afternoon, as she struggled with a heavy pot, the front door creaked open. A tall figure in a dusty army uniform stepped in. It was Faraz. He had returned after months at the border, his face tired, his body weary from sleepless nights. But when his eyes fell on Aisha, his heart froze. There she was, his little girl, sitting on the floor, hands dirty, face streaked with tears, trying to wash clothes far too heavy for her fragile arms. "Aisha," his voice broke. She looked up, eyes brimming with pain, lips trembling. She whispered, "Daddy, I do this every day." Faraz staggered, his heart sinking. The words cut through him like a blade. He rushed to her, pulled her into his arms, and held her tightly. Tears streamed down his face as guilt consumed him. He had spent years guarding his country, but in doing so, he had failed to guard his daughter's childhood. She had been fighting her own silent war: loneliness, hunger, exhaustion. He kissed her forehead again and again, whispering, "I'm here now, my princess. I'm here. You'll never be alone again." The days that followed were different. Faraz took leave from his duties. For the first time, he cooked for Aisha, brushed her hair, and walked her to school. They began repairing the house together. Faraz repainted the walls, fixed the cabinets, and scrubbed away the dirt that had gathered over the years. Aisha's laughter returned, slowly at first, then brighter each day. She played with her doll again. She sang songs while helping her father. And at night, instead of crying herself to sleep, she drifted off in her father's arms, safe and loved. Yet, no matter how much time passed, one memory never left Faraz's heart. The sight of his little girl, sitting on the cold floor with tears in her eyes, whispering those haunting words. "Daddy, I do this every day." That sentence became the greatest lesson of his life. Duty to one's country was sacred, but duty to one's child was above all. From that day onward, Faraz promised himself that no matter where life took him, his daughter's happiness and childhood would always come first. And so, the little house that once echoed with silence and sorrow began to echo with laughter, love, and hope again.